So welcome everyone to Bring a Camino Quality Home. I'm so glad that you've chosen to be here with me today. I know there's lots of places that all of you could be. Something to do with the Camino. If we can't be on Camino, that might be a close runner-up. And I just appreciate your presence here, each and every one of you. My name is Kathy Kay, and I walked my first Camino in 2012. At a really tender moment in my life, and it had a significant impact. It really helped me step into that next part of my life, and it really helped me. It really helped show me things about myself, things about the world, and relate to things in a different way. And I imagine for many of you, the Camino experience was significant for you as well. We'll start to unpack that a little bit as we go. So when I walked that Camino, I had just finished 1 year in a program called spiritual psychology. And I was learning about seeing the world in a different way. So that was one bookend of the Camino. I walked the Camino and I came back and I finished my master's in spiritual psychology. So those two things really just got woven together into a beautiful tapestry. I don't even think that I could pull them apart. But that's kind of how I see life in the world now. And I see the Camino as just such a beautiful metaphor for life, and really do believe that those wonderful things we experienced don't have to stay on the Camino. They live inside of us and we can bring them home. We're going to be doing that a little bit today. There's lots of ways to do that. You may have already done that in many ways. And we're just going to look at one way, which is to identify a Camino quality. I'll tell you more about what that is. For me, it's going to be like a more awareness of my body, like I had on the Camino, and nurturing that. But we'll each pick one characteristic, one quality from the Camino, and talk about ways to bring that home. And we'll meet this week, we'll meet again in a week, and then we'll meet 3 weeks after that. So we'll have 3 sessions over 5 weeks and run this experiment to see what can happen in our lives. I know a lot of people, and you may or may not be one of them, have walked the Camino and come home feeling Camino blues. And it's a real thing for some people. And things on the Camino were so good. They want to feel that. They want to experience that at home. And it's kind of remained a mystery as to how to do that, where to find the community. I know I went through a period where I kind of wanted everybody at home to show up like they were showing up, so open-hearted and generous and spontaneous, and whatever the characteristics were. I wanted that in my everyday life. And somewhere over time, I realized, well, that's kind of unfair for me to expect that from them. I'm the one who had this incredible life-changing experience. Why don't I see if I can bring some of that home? And if I can bring some of that home and embody that and put just a little bit of Camino in my life, I have seen and I believe that that ripples out into our lives. So that's the purpose of this 3-part program that's going to take place over a month, is for us to fill ourselves up with that Camino quality and then watch it ripple out into our lives and see what happens. So thank you all for being here. This is Muxía, looking out. Many people go to Finisterre. This is a town north of there on the western side of Spain, also at the end of the earth, looking out over the Atlantic Ocean after walking west, walking towards home for a month. And just a beautiful church down below. And I actually, Adam chose this picture because it represents that completing the Camino in Spain part of the journey, and then the journey back home again. All right, so in this program, I'm hoping that these are things that you had on the Camino to some degree or another. In this program, I'm setting this up so that we have a container where we set aside time and space with a beginning and an end date. And like I said, we begin this week, we have another meeting in a week, and then 1 3 weeks after that. We have a clear direction and intention, as we did on the Camino. On the Camino, we were walking towards Santiago. In this program, we're going to choose a quality and begin walking in that direction. And the intention is to bring that into our everyday lives. I will help you have clear steps that become clearer as you keep moving forward, just as we did on the Camino. And a safe space, which is really important to me, that everybody here feels like they can have their own experience without being judged. People have a voice here. Everyone is welcome. And I just ask that we all embrace that and allow people to come as they are. And finally, a community to engage with. We can all try to do things like this at home, simplify our lives, declutter our homes, live with less. But it's fun to do it in a community and share and get feedback and encourage each other. So that's where you guys come in. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And let's jump in. I came across this quote a few days ago. I had seen it years ago when I was working to help build outdoor classrooms for children. There's a wonderful author named Rachel Carson who wrote a book called A Sense of Wonder. And I like this quote because it reminds me that on the Camino, I feel like I really woke up to some of my childlike qualities again. And so I think it applies to the Camino in that if as children we're reborn if we're reborn as children on the Camino and we're to keep alive our inborn sense of wonder, we need the companionship of at least one other adult who can share it, discovering with us the joy, the excitement, and the mystery of the world that we live in. And I think that world is so easy to see and appreciate and enjoy on the Camino. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we can bring that joy and excitement and wonder into our everyday lives at home and nurture that? What I'd like to do is go into a little exercise, because I feel like I've been talking for a while. I pulled together some photos from my Caminos over the years, and as a way of getting ourselves into the feeling of the Camino again, and a way of connecting with the Camino qualities, I thought it might just be fun to look at pictures and everybody call out what kind of an emotion or quality it evokes for you. For me, this one, well, I'm just going to open that up. What does this photo evoke for you when you look at it? This is, if you recognize it, walking up out of Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port on the first day of the French Camino.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah, Susan. What else?
Excitement to get
Yeah.
out there and see the views and feel like, okay, that was hard to get to, but I made it. Look, I can look down on things now.
Oh, I like that. And a sense of accomplishment, a sense of more confidence. Beautiful. What else?
No,
Unexpected.
Deborah?
I was going to say an overview.
Ooh, nice. Randy?
Unexpected beauty.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderment, where I've come from and where I'm headed to.
Lovely.
A sense of freedom.
Mm.
Smallness in the vision of enormity.
All right. Oh, so interesting. Yeah.
For me, the first word was peace, but then the second part was sort of that emptiness, but in a good way, that moment in between. You know, you hiked
Ooh,
up
lovely.
and you're hiked down, but just that present moment of like complete emptiness, but in a good, I'm not sure the word, but in a good way, emptiness.
I love that. Thank you, Andrea. I like that you brought that. I'm not sure how to explain it in, because so many of the things that we try to explain about the Camino, it's like we can't, at least I can't. Now, Deborah on here is a writer. I know maybe some of the others of you are. Randy has a great way of really bringing us into the sensation of it. But what is that thing that's so hard to describe? If you can't find the words, and maybe even more importantly, I invite you just to see if you can feel it in the body. And as we're going through this, I also encourage you to remember that we're moving in the direction of finding one quality that I will choose, or Adam will choose, or Deborah will choose, that for the next 4 weeks, I really want to bring it more into my life. So as we're talking about this, see if anything really brings up a sense of curiosity or aliveness. All right, so let's go on to the next picture. And again, just shout out what it evokes in you.
For me, it's walking, because if you're going fast, you miss this.
Lovely. I heard the words one time, moving at the speed of life instead of light, the speed of life. And Deborah, I'm with you. I love that quality of moving slowly enough to be able to digest and take in and notice the experiences. How about the rest of you?
Fresh and new beginning.
Ooh, beautiful.
Finding beauty in the mundane that is often overlooked.
Exactly.
For me, sort of the luck and the gratitude of being right there when the water drops were on that plant, because any other time you may not have gotten that, the plants and
Yeah.
the water kind of coming together in that moment.
Yeah. Hmm. That's I hadn't thought about that in that way. Sometimes I'm so grateful on the Camino, like, wow, what a miracle that I happen to be from Colorado in the United States, happen to be standing right here at this moment, taking a picture of that. For example, when somebody from Poland comes up, like, wow, what a miracle that the two of us happen to meet in this moment. It's so unlikely. So just that appreciation of being in that space at that time. Anything else?
I can ruin the moment by saying, "Oh no, rain."
Well, that's a good
Is
point,
it,
Susan.
or is
Yep.
it rain or liquid sunshine?
Oh, that's funny.
As Annie O'Neill says in that video, in that film of hers, a moment like this, she said, "It's not rain, it's liquid sunshine."
And that brings in the quality of reframing something. Yeah. All right, here's the next one. What does that evoke in you?
Together.
Yeah.
Reminder of humanity.
Oh, beautiful.
Connection.
Yeah.
For me, it brings forward the organic love that we have for one another when the trivia is removed.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautifully said.
You know, for me, some of the problem is trying to put words on, label a feeling.
Yep.
So there's something lost in, honestly, something lost in the translation from my feeling to the label. But I kind of feel like a oneness
Yeah.
there in that picture.
Yeah. And the feeling is more than enough. The feeling's the most important part of it, Leo, in my opinion. And if it's, it could be, I want more of that in my life, even if I don't know how to describe it. I know what it feels like. I know what I'm going for.
It's kind of like the feeling, if you can get to the point where you got the feeling, that's a lot, without taking it to the level of intellect and
Yeah.
judging it or labeling it.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
It does. Absolutely.
The interesting thing about this picture for me was I had a couple of thoughts first, and then it turned to, someone's needing support and there's people supporting. And lately I felt unheard. And so this picture is like somebody is listening to somebody else. So, but the fact that this picture is being framed by something I have going on in my own life, but that somebody's listening to somebody else and supporting. And that might not even be what's happening. They could just be decide to put their hands together in unison, but I'm seeing that it's not balanced, that somebody's needing something and someone else is there for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the word kind of belonging came to mind. And then I also kind of similarly sort of like felt it, like had like a visceral kind of feeling of warmth, like in my chest from like seeing the joining of hands. And I sort of ended up like putting my hands almost like to mimic the gesture.
Nice.
Because of that made me think, in the real world, people don't do that. They don't, and I put the real world in quotes, but it's like people creating space for other people. It's what people want or need, but it's not what happens. So that's what I see there is creating space or letting go.
Yeah. What you're referring to as the real world, I often call the everyday world, because
Right.
the Camino was kind of an experience that set itself aside. It was outside of my everyday life. And I also appreciate what you're saying, Leo, that it's not typical for many people to find this kind of connection or support or the feeling that's being evoked right here. And wouldn't it be great if we could find that in our everyday world? And that's my passion behind this. Like, I want, if one person can come home and create a moment of this for somebody else, and that begins to ripple out, I think we start changing the world. Have you guys ever heard anybody say something to the effect of, all world leaders should be required to walk the Camino? Imagine. Or that the Camino is like a mini United Nations or something like that. Yeah. And again, my invitation is, let's bring this home. That would begin to change the world.
Yeah.
The other day
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Javier.
for me in the large picture, I see the United Nations, but in the small picture, I see people.
Yep.
For me, my Camino, I kind of learned to picture it or to understand it as a bubble that was about to burst when I was finishing it, but what I got out of it was the certainty that the bubble exists. I've been there. Now there is an outside world but I can always go to the bubble whenever I feel like it. That's the one thing that I brought with me. And I have been sharing it with people in that sense.
Excellent. And are you saying that what you experienced on the Camino didn't stay in Spain? It's inside of you and you can access it anytime you want to. Is that what I'm
Yes.
hearing?
Yes.
Lovely.
And if
Fantastic.
I want to relive it, it's there.
Yeah.
It's there because it exists. It's not an illusion. I've been there. It exists. I can go whenever I want. I can go back.
I love that, Javier. Thank you. Leo, did you want to say something else?
I was going to say, back to the everyday world description, in my experience, the everyday world is dominated by fear. And so fear leads to, at least in my thinking of self. And in the picture, for people to reach out and do that is a giving up of that feeling of self, which would then be a giving up of the feeling of fear, because you're really taking a chance when you reach out and hold another person's hand like that. So I see in that kind of like an achievement. What Javier said about accessing the Camino is, I think, made me think of that if you can access that feeling. I watch a lot of YouTubes of the Camino, even now, of people that are hiking it. And I always like the ones that say the Camino provides.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was thinking when Javier said that you access that feeling, which gets you to relinquishing the fear and having faith that the Camino somebody will come by with food or duct tape or whatever. And that feeling is a great feeling. So that's what I see in that picture. Those people have found a way to rise above their sense of fear or, and thinking of self. So
Yeah.
good picture.
Yeah, it's moving from from a more myopic, well, I don't know if that's the right word, from looking out only for the self to looking outside of oneself, getting over any vulnerability of fear or how we might look or how we might be received, but really going into just being supportive or supported. For some people, it's even harder to receive support than it is to give this kind of support. That's interesting too.
I had moments like this on my Camino. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Just let yourself go and trust and be trusted.
Yeah.
It brought a feeling that we don't get every day in the real world.
Yeah. And maybe we can find more of it.
Yes. Here, outside of the bubble.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I want to explore. Thank you guys all for your input on that. Let's go to the next picture. There we go. How about this one?
I was there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is in with the Franciscans in Carrión de los Condes, maybe?
It is, yes.
That was probably one of the best moments of my Camino. So for me, I just think of joy because there was this one nun there that was so beatific. I mean, I suddenly understood that word. She was just glowing with joy, and I had goosebumps. It was just so amazing.
Nice. Me too. The nun that's holding the guitar here, it's like what you're saying. I hadn't really seen this in a person before. She exuded unconditional love and joy. There was too much of it in her body that it was just oozing out, and you could feel it. And it wasn't even given freely. It was just present. It was an amazing experience.
Yep.
Does this evoke anything for anybody else, whether you were there or not?
Yeah, I think this speaks to that expression of communitas.
Yeah.
You know, when you go off on pilgrimage, and you truly embrace it, you know, it's a great leveler. Camino is everything from home is of no importance. Our title, our money, our roles, our responsibilities, it's of no importance, and we're all just leveled out. And then when you have a very special moment like this, you feel communitas, you're just at one with everybody else, and with, I think, that sense of feeling of the world at large as well. It's, you know, you're taken out of yourself. It's almost like it's a transcendent moment. That's how I felt it when I had this experience in the monastery there. It was one of those communitas moments. And I think equally when you sit around a pilgrim meal as well, you can have the same sense of feeling.
Yeah, I like the word that you're using, Adam, transcends. It transcends the word connection. The connection is there, and yet there's something transcendent about it as well. And I also love the word communitas. Anyone else? Right, we'll go to the next one. I'll say that here's one that I can't describe. One, it was the composition of this, all of these books in the small church in Osebrero. Something about wisdom that's being shared, or I didn't look carefully, but I imagine maybe these are in different languages. And regardless of your religious or spiritual beliefs, how wisdom and connection with the divine permeates through many languages and cultures. And gosh, I can't remember who said it in the beginning, but that feeling of like, oh, I think it was Javier, that large feeling of like the books show me how many languages it might be, but those candles, each one is lit by somebody in honor of another person. So it brings it right back down to the individual as well. And for me also just the sense of peace and sacredness that I felt in the churches, in some of the churches, especially the little ones.
Yeah, that was the word. My first word was sacred when I saw this picture.
Yeah.
But then noticing the number of books laid out, you know, that connection and, you know, what's sacred to us or what our journey is, you know, there's a bigger picture and there's different ways, you know, there's different people in different ways. So that's what the books brought in. But my very first thought was sacred.
Thank you.
This reminds me. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if this is the case, what you were saying, Kathy, that it's the same book, but in different languages. But there was one place we stopped and we went to a service where they handed out the service, and it was each person got a copy that was in 2 languages. And so you could translate. And so the word that came to my mind was inclusive.
Oh, I love that.
I was going to say something similar because this reminds me of a little church when I think it was Montanas, or it could have been Orneos, or the two were really close. I don't remember which one I stayed in, but it was a similar thing where it had Bibles in every different language. And the word that I kept thinking was universality. Just how being on Camino seems like such a singular experience. And being in that little tiny church that had all those Bibles seemed so thoughtful and so universal to remind me that there's many different ways that people are accessing this journey. Even if you're not particularly religious, the fact that they had you name the language, there was a Bible in that language, and to have that for someone who might want it.
Hmm. That's really cool, that word universality. And it makes me think in a bigger picture too of, you know, I'm one teeny tiny little person, and yet there's billions also doing the same thing on this planet right now, having this journey through a life. And the universality of that shared experience, but everybody having their own individual experience of it, like we had on the Camino too.
Yeah.
I like that. Anybody else before I go on?
You know, Kathy, I kind of look at this and I see all the languages represented. And often when I work in an albergue and they're, you know, everybody's like, do you speak French? Do you speak Spanish? You know, before. And I'm like, no, I don't. But I have never had trouble communicating with anybody because there's so many other ways to communicate. So I don't know. I see all those languages there. And, you know, when we're on the Camino, yes, English is the common language, but often you're with someone who doesn't speak English. And if you slow down and take the time, you can communicate in other ways. And maybe it goes back to the picture we just looked at with holding a hand or a smile or some gentle gesture that just requires you to slow down.
I just love that. And I think we're becoming, it's great to have Google Translate and tools like that. And yet, before all of that, and even still, you can look at somebody with compassion and they know it. You can look at someone with celebration and cheering and they know it. You know, there is so much that can be communicated without the words. That seems to be a theme today. I like that. All right, let me show you the next picture.
For me, if I was walking and I saw that, my husband and my older daughter are really into plants and botany. And so that would be my moment, like sort of connect to someone who was more into plants than me, and that moment of thinking of someone who supported me and being there, even though they weren't. So this just reminds me of, you know, my people when I see that picture.
I love that, Andrea. Thank you.
Brought to my memory wine, La Rioja, El Bierzo, fun times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a happy picture,
Yeah.
good recollection. So
For me, it would be springtime because this is
Uh-huh.
obviously spring on the Camino, and I happened to walk the Primitivo this year in the spring, and so spring is really rebirth to me.
Yeah.
We saw so many um, uh, babies being born of all different kind of animals, and the growth and the flower buds coming out. So that for me, this would represent springtime and what I can a rebirth of um
Yep.
new life, new growth.
Yep. Me too, Susan. It is springtime. If you've been there in the fall, there's still prolific vineyards and they look quite different. You know, there'd be grapes and bursting with color and energy and fullness and color and flavor and all of that stuff. But here it's that, you know, you can see that still the little vine at the top that's reaching, that's growing, that's expanding, that it's still in that season of not harvesting, but just being born again, or just, you know, just the beginning of something.
In the future fall abundance.
Yes. Yes. Anybody else?
Well, I look at that and like Javier, I think wine. And I just remember when I was walking through La Rioja and similar areas, it was in the fall. But it was a similar sense of excitement because I was seeing the grapes, and at times I was walking through and the tractors and the guys were harvesting the grapes, and just wondering like, wonder what this one's gonna taste like tonight when I'm at dinner, the wine from this region. And so that same sort of kind of the flip sense of right now where it's in the spring, it's all potential. It was potential in a different way. It's like, okay, now the circle of life is coming around, and now we're harvesting what we sowed way back when, and let's see what it's like.
Absolutely. And you bring something else up for me, which is that connection to what I'm actually putting into my body. Like, oh wow, sorry if you're vegetarian, but we walk by cattle, we walk by cows that rub against me, and that night I'm eating some beef for dinner. So grateful, but a connection to, I know where this came from. And the same thing here with the grapes.
Right. It's not just wine that has somehow appeared in the bottle at the grocery store.
Yeah.
But you know that the stuff that's on your table is the same stuff that you just watched the guys harvesting, or
Right.
whatever. It's not the exact same, but that those are those kinds of grapes that you've just seen, and it makes it so much more tangible and real.
Yeah, exactly. And the kitchen gardens or the figs or whatever it is, you see the soup, help me out. What is it called in Galicia, that famous soup with the greens and potato?
Caldo gallego.
Caldo gallego, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, I saw the cabbage in somebody's garden this morning.
Yeah.
I love that, the appreciation for that. Okay, I'm going to go to oh, we have two more, I think. How about this one?
I got hit with reconnection. That
Huh.
I'm imagining that these are people who met early on the Camino and then they ran into each other later. And because I remember that joyousness of reconnecting with somebody who I'd met earlier, kind of lost for a while, and then came back to and saw again.
I can feel that in my body, that like, oh, it's you, my best friend from 2 days ago. But that you have the connection with, that joy of seeing someone again. What else?
It's happened to me so many times that the first emotion that I have, oh wow, I can even see faces and be reminded of names. I mean,
Yeah.
I did a lot of contacting like this all over the road.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Anything else?
Well, I was just wondering whether it's gratitude or something with having a box. Looks like she's got in her hand a box of something for her foot.
Right.
So it's almost, have I been rescued here? And oh, I'm so grateful. And so there's joy, liveliness, gratitude. That's what's coming up for me.
Yeah. And as you say that, Adam, I love this picture because of that box she's holding. Clearly, she probably has something going on with her ankle. I walked with her for a while. I know she did. And yet this man, I think, just comes up, grabs her, and there's a willingness and a joy, and whatever's going on in the body, it's like set aside for a moment because here's this opportunity to dance and connect and have fun. So I love the irony of that. And I just see such a willingness. All right, I think this is the last one. Yeah, how about that picture? Susan Peacock, there's more rain for you.
It's okay. I'm just having a little PTSD this year. This year I had 9 days of complete rain, sleet, in freezing temperatures and
Ooh.
7-mile-an-hour headwinds. 9 days without a break. So I've got a little bit of I've never, in all my 10 Caminos before that, I've never had 9 days before. So that's why
Ouch.
rain comes to mind. But I'm thinking they're seeing their reflections.
Ooh, I like it. What
I'm
else?
kind of seeing people encouraging somebody to take a chance or take a risk and not be afraid and have at it.
Yep.
See, to me, it's kind of that slap happy Camino humor that sets in after a while. It just poured rain as soon as we hit the border of Galicia, all the way to the end. And at first you're horrified, But then after a while, there's just so much, and it's just overwhelming, that we would start to laugh when it would start to pour down. Or when we get to puddles that were this big, we'd start laughing because we were soaked, and it was like, I don't know, should we even bother going around it? Like, what difference is it gonna make? And it was great because it's, rather than complaining about a situation, which might be our norm in everyday life, it was so much more of a radical acceptance of whatever it was. Now, would I have liked it to have been sunny? Of course, but we didn't.
Right. Yeah, kind of the acceptance of it, that we in our everyday lives, I try to control or think I can control so much of the environment, turn the thermostat up, turn the thermostat down, turn on a fan, come inside because it's raining, don't go out because it's raining, all of it. And this was just acceptance of the things that I can't control, but I can keep going. And, in the face of the adversity, how will I respond? And there clearly humor in the face of adversity, or optimism, or I don't know, connection, something like that in the face of something that might not be super fun.
So, Kathy,
Yeah.
one of the thoughts I've had of late is that the Camino is kind of a metaphor for life. Even back at, we keep making the distinction between, but even in the everyday world, it's really the same. And if you have that ability to like invoke the Camino and all that we're describing and bring it to the everyday world, then life, I look back over my life, it really was like the Camino. And so, like this, in the real world, they'd probably stress out about that. Or I don't want to get my feet wet, or, I got a meeting to go to. And so that would alter you. But on the Camino, you start laughing. And so I think that's where this thought I've had, I thought I'd mention it here, is that this idea that it's like if you can get it to where it's a metaphor for your life, then your whole life changes. If you can accept that metaphor, sort of the craziness of the whole thing. And like you said, essentially the recognition of how little you actually control. And so then being resilient, you just go with the flow, so to speak,
Yeah, absolutely, Leo. I couldn't agree more with you. Thank you for expressing it the way you did. And that's exactly what I want us to start looking at, is what would be the thing? And it could be something that came up in these photos. It could be something from your own Camino, something that you really are longing for right now. But what would be the thing? And I'm going to invite everybody to choose just one, which for me would be the hardest thing. But to choose just one thing, I'm going to say it for myself, that I want to notice more in my life. I want to see an opportunity for more in my life. I'm going to give away the homework for week 1 to week 2, if you'll call it that, is just to notice where the quality already exists. There it is. Oh, that guy just pulled out in front of me. And instead of honking my horn, I felt a moment of compassion. Oh, there it is. I had a choice on how I responded. Even if I did honk my horn, I could have responded differently. So it's just for 1 week, just noticing where it's showing up in our life. We'll get together again, and then we're going to make a more active plan. How can I nurture it? How could I bring it into my most challenging relationship? And then we'll have a long period of time to practice that in everyday life before we come back together again. So I want to invite you to begin thinking about what would be that one quality that you might want more of, or that just sounds like fun. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms in just a moment so that you'll be in smaller groups and everybody has more of a chance to share. First, I want to invite you into a solo process. Okay, You've seen some of my photos here. You might have your own images that come forward, or if you're a feeling person, you might have memories come up and you can feel the sensation of those things. In this process, I just want to invite you into the memories of your Camino, what was special. And again, keeping in mind gently, you don't have to force this, but gently we're moving in the direction of what's the thing that I would like to nurture over the next month. So if you're open to this, and you can turn off your screen if you feel more comfortable doing this, but if you're open, I invite you to close your eyelids right now. And just take a breath. And whatever it would be for you, just picture, feel yourself back on the Camino. Maybe there was a sense of aliveness, a sense of peace, or delight and awe in the beauty that surrounded you. So I'm going to be quiet for a moment or two and just allow you to connect with what was really meaningful and special for you. If a memory or image comes up for you, just look at it and see if there might be something there that wants attention. Is there anything that you miss from the Camino? And how would you name that as a quality? And if you can't name it, can you at least feel it? Take a couple more moments with that as I set up breakout rooms for you.
Kathy, you don't have to put me in one. I haven't been on a Camino, so I probably shouldn't have joined.
Oh, it's okay, Jen. You know
But
what?
I don't have a lot to share because
Here's what I would invite, Jen, is what would you what would you hope you would experience on the Camino?
right.
Peace or freedom from responsibility. And that's enough. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please do that then. Okay. I'm going to break you into, and thank you for saying that. This is something I forgot to say at the beginning, by the way, which is I really love interaction. So if you have questions, please just jump in and ask. If you have comments, just jump right in. I love the interaction. So I'm going to put you into 5 different breakout rooms. You will have 2 to 3 people in each room. Talk about what you think you might want to focus on over the next month, that special quality. And if you're between a couple of them, feel free to chat that over with the people in your group. What are the qualities that I'm considering that were meaningful from the Camino that I want to bring home more of in my everyday life? Okay, so please join your rooms.
Yeah.
So welcome back. How was that?
That was great.
I love giving you guys an opportunity to connect and talk a little bit more. I want to hear where you kind of landed. If you have a, I'm going to turn it to gallery view. If you have a good idea of the quality that you'd like to notice and nurture in your life over the next month, in your everyday life, just give me a visual thumbs up on the screen. because I want to see where we are. If you know.
What time do you?
Okay. If you don't, let me take questions, or how can I support you?
I
Do
have
you,
general idea about people.
okay,
My main topic, I actually had a presentation here with my pickleball friends. I made a PowerPoint presentation, and that's my topic, people. To me, the people is what made the Camino, my Camino. Let's put it that way. But I don't know how to turn that into a quality. I was very well received, and I was surprised. Okay, because I'm kind of an aloof person, but no such thing in the Camino. I mean, I had such fantastic encounters and conversations, reunions at the bar, while walking, having a glass of wine at night before going to bed. I mean, so to me, it is about people. I just don't know how to put it into
yeah.
a quality that I could call.
Let me see if we can get a little bit closer to it for you. This is the hotter, colder game. I'll say something and you say, oh, no, not quite that. Or, yeah, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. And this, you might just need to think about it too. And that's okay, Javier.
Right.
Does it feel like it's about having an authentic, open connection with people?
Yes. Yes.
Is there more? Is there anything that's
it is the dream that you could relate to everybody without having to hide anything, or
there you go.
or the other people also would relate to me and I would be transparent.
I think you got it. Does that feel, is that what you, excuse me, is that what you'd like more of in your life?
Yes.
Okay. So it's the transparent way of connecting and connecting on the Camino with other people with ease.
But not on the Camino, in
Right.
real life.
You felt it
that-
on the Camino, and now
Yeah.
you want to bring it to everyday life.
Right. And I realize that as I turn older, I'm turning more cynical, and I see myself doubting what other people are telling me, and also sometimes having to hold my ideas so that I don't get judged or misunderstood. And that's what I would like to. And in the Camino, I found complete transparency, or at least I felt that way. I wish I could feel like that in real life.
Okay. It sounds to me like that would be the quality that you are going to notice and nurture over the next month.
Okay, I mean, I'll give it a nice thought.
And also Randy, I see your wheels turning. Do you want to respond to Javier?
It sounds to me like he's right on track. What I'm hearing is that people, the quality of relationship with people has been at the very center of his Camino experience.
Yeah.
And so the quality is an authentic, loving connection with the people around him where he is now.
Yeah.
At least that's what I'm hearing, and the opportunity is to I think to be able to initiate that rather than wait for it.
Does that land, Javier?
It makes sense. Makes
Okay.
sense.
See what you notice over the next week. You know, where is there the opportunity for that? Where is it already in your life? That's what we'll all be doing, whatever the quality is. And in the next week, you also might get even closer to what it really looks like for you, or what it really feels like for you. And I'm saying that to all of you, by the way. Hopefully you have an idea now, and it's okay to get even closer to what it
I
really is over the
feel like
next week.
I feel like I am a step closer, because ever since I returned for the Camino 2 months ago, I kind of felt that something, some confusion, and that something is missing. Further, I am by nature a lazy person, so I sometimes I look at myself and say, "Get moving," but there's no path. So I haven't been moving. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you are. And this is so worthwhile. What you're talking about is so worthwhile. I really acknowledge you. And I'm going to really be curious what happens over the next month. Thanks for sharing, Javier. I hope that was helpful.
It was. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to talk it out a little bit? I do want to say this. Some people don't make decisions like that. They need to sit on it or sleep on it or feel into it. And that's okay. You're not behind if you haven't chosen a quality yet. I invite you to spend some time in whatever your process is, choosing one thing. And don't put too much pressure on yourself. You can repeat this at another time and do the same thing in a month from now, but choose something that we can work with. So I wanted to say that, but is there anybody else who would like who wants to talk it out a bit? Randy.
This is just my perspective, but what I saw in the Camino is permission to see the magnificence that's there in every human being, regardless of what's going on in their life. And for me, that's as true on the Camino as it is in regular life. That there seems to be something in people that yearns to be seen for who they really are.
Yeah.
Aside from all their credentials. And that's so flagrant on the Camino. So one of the practices that I've been enjoying is, if I just meet somebody in the supermarket or the trail or wherever, is to know in my heart that that they are precious beyond words, that there's a sacredness in them, that they could be on that Camino as well as anybody else.
Yeah.
And when I experience that in my heart, they might be in a terrible mood, but that doesn't mean I can't go up and say, "Hey, nice head of lettuce," or whatever it is. It's just that, or sometimes I'll just say, "What's going really well in your world?" And just make that connection. And time after time after time, I see them light up. So bringing that recognition and that empowerment to people. I always say in the seminars that you can't give love without being in love.
Huh.
So the instant that I create it, however they respond, I'm uplifted.
Yeah. That's a beautiful example of what my intention for this group is honing in on what's the thing. What was the word that you used? Permission. In a way, I'm hearing permission to love openly and freely.
Yeah.
And share that with other people. And then I know you a bit, and I know that you do that in your everyday life. For some of the others of us, I was really slow with this. I kind of needed to break it down and take it in steps, and it didn't translate automatically. I had to be a little more intentional about it. But yes, what you're saying is exactly what my intention for this group is, whatever that quality might be. Thank you.
Yeah.
Leo.
First off, I really enjoyed the breakout.
Good.
I got to know, Dina as a person rather than just a face. That's a great aspect to this, I think.
Good.
The breakout parts. I have to say, her and I, we kind of shared some of the same qualities about simplifying different stages in life, but we talked about that and about being mindful, and I really appreciate that. And I found out she's a yoga teacher, and in challenging circumstances, living in New York City, to be mindful and the detox. But I really like that. My experience on the Camino was different. I had told her I'm a Vietnam combat veteran, and I came to cope with my shadow self, which is very powerful. I've since learned, it was a long time ago, but at this point in my life, that I uncovered that, and I came to appreciate the fear, being alone, fear. And I've since learned from therapy, you run away from feelings and you hide in your head. Got to go back and confront the feelings. I was a very controlling person. So on the Camino, there was a loss of control, which is very frightening. So to me, since I've done a deep dive, I've read every book. We talked about that, reading all of Pema Chodron's books and all of Thich Nhat Hanh's books. And I belong to meditation groups. Very helpful. What we didn't get to talk about was the focus. And for me, what I think is the key is to have a curiosity for life. Because once you have a curiosity, instead of going, that jerk cut me off, you go, I wonder why he cut me off.
Beautiful.
And what happens when you do that, I've discovered, is you let go. And so to me, we didn't get to talk about that, but to me, my Camino was my shadow self was very powerful. And I came back dedicated to, coming to grips with who I really am, rather than the person in my life that I thought I was.
Yeah.
And so to me, I had a different experience. Maybe we all had different experiences, but that was mine. And so I came back committing to my body, to improve my body physically and my mind and my spirit. So I'm sort of working on me to let go of the me that I was, if that makes any sense.
Makes perfect sense.
So I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I think you take some time to think about, to choose, but I think you're right on to something as far as what that quality is, that curiosity. And it sounds like you already have been nurturing that. And I really acknowledge you. Yeah. And thanks for sharing your unique Camino experience. That's powerful as well. I am also just being mindful of time, and I want to try to wrap up here in the next couple of minutes. I'm also happy to stay on with anybody who would like to kind of talk out and choose their quality. So just stay on if you'd like to. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do, though. Would you please, if you know the quality and you're open to sharing, would you please write it in the chat so that we can read what each of us is up to? As you're reading, we've kind of had the picture of the hands together. Like, imagine us being a team, and we kind of have our hands on top of each other. And as we're reading what everybody else is writing in the chat, imagine being around a table and just saying like, oh yeah, you got it, go for it. Or That's really cool. Can't wait to see how that goes for you, whatever it might be, but just imagine sending some encouragement to that person. Connection with the divine, staying present in the moment, curiosity, courage, acceptance, letting go of trying to control everything. Powerful. Engaging in the mystery, appreciation for being in the moment. Mystery, magic, time out of ordinary time. Experiencing fulfillment when I feel disconnected from loving. Interesting. Take a moment before we leave. Close your eyes if you want to, and feel what that quality feels like in your body when you're experiencing it. My hope for myself is that I become I don't pronounce this word correctly, a sommelier. Is that how you say it? Like, you know how they have to know, like, oh yes, hints of apricot and then an aftertaste of cinnamon or whatever. Like, I want to know my quality that well that I know what the beginning of it feels like and the end of it feels like and all the nuances of that quality. And I invite you into that as well. I'm going to share the screen one last time. I have loved our conversation today. I have loved what each and every one of you has shared, and I'm just so grateful that you're here. I need to move something. Okay. Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss. And I've always loved that quote, but I don't know what my bliss is. I'm going to change his quote to, I do know what my bliss is. I'm going to change the quote to, follow your quality and see where it takes you. He follows that up with, again, I have to move what's on my screen. If you do follow your bliss, if you do follow your quality, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while, waiting for you. And the life that you ought to be living is the one that you are living. When you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in the field of your bliss, and they open the doors for you. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. So that's the journey that we're going on in my mind with all of this. And I want to, hold on, how come it's not moving to the next slide? Between now and next week, when we meet again, I will be sharing the recording with you, and I will put this into an email so that if you don't catch all of this right now, you'll get an email about it. But the homework, playtime, curiosity, whatever you want to call this, inquiry, is just to allow and notice where your quality is already showing up or where there might be an opportunity. So that's the homework simply said, but I'm not usually brief. So what that might look like, you don't have to do all of these, you don't have to do any of these, but they're just meant to give you an idea of what you could do over the next week. You might keep having memories of when you experienced that quality on the Camino. And I invite you to get really close to it. How does it feel in your body? How does it feel in your spirit? How does it feel in your heart? It might be fun just to notice synchronicities coming up. I think that the universe likes to play along with us. So you might see your quality on a great big sign when you go out today or on a license plate. You might notice people talking about it. Feel free to talk to other people about it. Also, maybe you're going to notice it in relationships, work, challenging situations. It could be fun to record your experiences in a Camino Quality journal. Maybe you'll take pictures of it, you'll draw, you'll paint. whatever your style is. That's a lot of words, but really all you're doing is noticing where your quality is already showing up in your life. Does that make sense? Any questions? All right, thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to seeing you again in a week. I will stay on if anybody has questions or comments or wants to talk longer. But thank you all so much for being here and for your participation.
Thank you, Kathy.
Kathy.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone.
Mhm.